Why is it easier to want more for everyone else in your life, but when it comes to your own dreams and desires, you feel like you don't deserve it, you feel bad for wanting those things, or you completely talk yourself out of it? That's what this episode is all about. Welcome to I Buy Myself Flowers. My name's Allison Tibbs, and this is the Reclamation season, where we are focusing on reclaiming parts of ourselves that we have abandoned, parts of ourselves that we feel were unlovable or messy or too needy, and giving those parts space to come to the forefront and be acknowledged and seen and heard. Earlier this season, I asked the question, what do you really need? And this is an important question because I find that when we're looking at self-care, which is the intentional practice of tending to your needs, I find that a lot of people really struggle with getting clear on what their needs truly are because we're often tending to the needs of everyone else and we put our needs on the back burner. And once you get into the habit of asking yourself on a daily basis, multiple times a day, what do I need right now? And then you start to give yourself the things that you need, you build up this self-trust that, hey, I can take care of myself. I can tend to my needs. I can do what I need to do to make sure that I am healthy, that I am supported, that I can show up as my best self. That's super important. But what this episode is asking you might make you a bit uncomfortable. And that question is, what do I really want? Now, that's a very different question because no longer are we talking about the things that you need to be healthy, to be your best self, to be supported. Now we're talking about what are the things that you truly want that will help to connect you with joy, with pleasure, with satisfaction, things that will just make you feel so alive and so connected to your purpose or your values, or these other things that just make life feel like you can just breathe. And that's really hard. That's hard because I find that when I ask people that question, what do you want? That's harder for them to answer than what do they need. Because when you're asking someone, what do you really want? I think what happens in the brain is that it becomes, well, if I want this thing, what's the cost to other people? If I want to have more of this in my life, then that means that it's taking away from something or someone else. Or maybe we don't want to be judged for wanting the things that we want. There are certain things that I want that I'm sure people would think I was crazy for wanting the things that I want. When I think about the life that I want to live, the lifestyle that I want to have. And I have to learn to be okay with that because again, it's my life. And as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting anyone else, you deserve to have the things that you want in life. Whether it is a goal that you want to go after, whether it's a income that you want to have, whether it's a type of house you want, whether it's the type of relationship you want, whether it's the type of experience that you want to have, you're entitled to that. But I think what happens is we get afraid that we'll be judged, people will lose respect for us, we feel that we are not being humble or that we are being selfish and that our wants are unnecessary or unrealistic. And that gets into a pretty tough spot because then you almost start to like beat that out of you. Like you beat the wanting out of you. And you start to believe that the things that you should want should be in service or should benefit everyone else or at least someone else. Because if you have something that you want and it only benefits you, well, that's not good. You shouldn't want that. That's so selfish of you. And I just don't think that that narrative is helpful. I don't think it's ever been helpful. I can understand where it's coming from because I am a person that cares deeply about the people that I work with. I care deeply about the people that are in my life. I genuinely want to help people. And this might be a hard topic for someone, especially if you are a person who likes to be in support of others. You like to help other people. You like to solve people's problems. You like to be the person that people can lean on. You like to make other people's lives better. And this isn't about people pleasing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a genuine quality, a genuine value that you have around being in service of other people and allowing people to depend on you and to know that you are making an impact or a difference in someone's life. That's what I'm talking about. And that is a beautiful place to be. And I think we should continue to be those versions of ourselves. I'm one of those people. And on the other side of the same coin, there has to be space for your wants and your needs and your desires to be tended to and acknowledged. Because if that's not the case, then it's not balanced. And you deserve it just as much as everyone else does. And I see it all the time. The most recent time that I saw it was with my mom. She just had her birthday, and we went to Santa Barbara for the weekend, and we went to dinner. And as they give the birthday cake slice and her candle, she's about to make her wish. And I stop her and I say, Mom, make a wish, but it can only benefit you. It can benefit no one else. Okay. I watched her body, like her whole body language changed. It was almost like she didn't quite know what to do with that request or that information. I could see it on her face as she was doing the mental gymnastics to figure out, what does that really mean? And it was a while. I saw her processing. And she didn't share with me what her birthday wish was, but she finally got to a point where she took a big inhale and blew out her candle. And I hope that she did make a wish that would only benefit her. But there's something deep down that tells me she probably didn't. Because my mom is such a giver. My mom is such a generous person. My mom has this big heart that I think that there's a part of her that feels like anything that she gets or receives should benefit other people or benefit her family. And I will say, as her only daughter, I do benefit a lot from that. And as I'm getting older and I'm starting to clock it a bit more, I have been a bit more honest with her about, no, Mom, this is just for you. This is just for you. And in some way, I hope that I'm helping her to build that muscle around getting clear on the things that she wants solely for her. And just because you want something for yourself, it doesn't mean that it takes away from other people or other things. And that's the tension point that can be really hard for someone who's spent most of their life in that space. And I think sometimes it comes because you don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. You don't want to make someone feel bad. You want to help someone out. And in my life, I think the biggest way that I saw it, because I always talk about how your beliefs dictate your behaviors. And because I had this belief that I wanted to be of service and I didn't want to be an entrepreneur who made it difficult for people to work with me, I really suffered. And I got the hard lesson a couple years ago when I was meeting with my accountant and we were going through the tax preparation stuff. And she's going through all the documents and all the reports. And then she says to me, Allison, is there money that's not accounted for? And so I'm like, no, everything's here. You have everything that you should need to process my taxes. And I said, why? What's wrong? And she said, Allison, I'm just looking at the amount of work that you did last year, and you should be making 10 times the amount of what's here. That was a bit of a hard moment because if I'm being honest, I knew she was right. But then there was that part of me that felt like, oh no, that needed to defend it. So we started to go through some of the different engagements that I had and going through the invoices. And every time we went through one, I explained it. Instead of explaining it just matter of fact, I was justifying the lower rate that I charged. And whether the rate being lower or the rate not being as high as it could be was because I knew they were struggling, had a rough year, so I didn't want it to be hard for them to work with me. Or, we've been working together for 3-4 years, so I didn't feel comfortable raising the price, even though I'd raised prices for other opportunities. I didn't want to put someone in a position that made it really hard for them to maybe ask for more budget from their manager. Simply, I just wanted to make sure that I was seen as this person who was easy to work with, really flexible, would bend over backwards for my clients. And it was costing me. But it wasn't just costing me financially. Yes, I should have been making a lot more money that year, but it also cost me in a way that started to make me believe that I didn't deserve more. And that was what was really tough. And after that conversation, that really resonated with me, and I sat with it for a while. And I was like, Allison, why don't you believe that you deserve more? You believe that all of your clients and everyone that you work with deserves more, and you will show up for them. You will support them to do that. That's literally the crux of the work that I do. But why is it when it comes to me, I am struggling to set myself up to experience more? And I'm going to be really careful as I'm having this conversation, because I think what happens is there's this negative connotation with wanting more, and it being that you are selfish or that you're being ungrateful. I am not ungrateful for the things that I have. I am so grateful. And I actually have a gratitude practice that I do every single day, because I do believe when you are a grateful person and you lean into gratitude, it is a game changer, and it does help to shift your perspective. But if we believe that wanting more makes us ungrateful or makes us selfish, then we will never want more out of life. And then we will just settle, or we will downgrade, or we will convince ourselves that we don't deserve more. And I just sit with that for a while. And what I realized was that I did, in fact, want more. And that question, what do I really want, was the question that I sat with. Because I had to realize if there are things that I wanted in my life, I had to be honest with myself about what I wanted. Because when you get clear about what you want, you get that clarity. Then you have to look at what are the things that you are doing to support getting you to that, and what are the things that you are doing that sabotage that happening. And for me, I was sabotaging myself because I was undercharging, because I was over delivering and creating a lot more work for myself, but not charging appropriately. I was doing a lot of free labor and doing things for people because I just wanted to be helpful. And while I felt good at being able to support people that way, it didn't feel good on the back end when there were things that I wanted to invest in for my business, like coaches and better equipment and better software and programs. And I couldn't really do that because I wasn't making enough money to really support that. I was making enough money to do what I was doing, which was fine. But there were things that I wanted for my business. I wanted to expand. I wanted to grow. And I couldn't do that because I had this belief that I needed to shrink myself and that I needed to be in service of everyone else all the time, that I couldn't actually allow my desires and wants to be acknowledged. And then I started to look at every other place in my life, every other area in my life where I wasn't giving myself full permission to want more. And I literally was settling. I was settling in relationships. I was settling in friendships, even in my home. I was settling in so many areas, in so many ways, my health. I mean, it was so interesting to see how I was not allowing myself to even dream bigger. And that's what I want to pause and have you think about for yourself right now. Where are you holding yourself back, denying yourself of things that you might want, or almost like gaslighting yourself into not wanting the things that you want because it's frivolous or it's unrealistic or it's irresponsible or it's going to make you look bad or make you look silly or make you look whatever it is you don't want to feel or look or be seen as or perceived as. I guarantee there are things that you want right now that you've never told anyone out loud because you feel like it's so ridiculous. That has to stop. And if I was sitting right next to you, I would hold your hand and I would want you to tell me, what are the things that you truly want? Like, what do you want? And I would keep asking you, what else? And what else? And what else? Because I would want you to get to a point where you would just say all the things that you want. Now, the reality is they may not all happen. They may not all come to fruition. That's fine. But I think some of us really struggle to even articulate or communicate or give ourselves permission to even think about what we truly want. And so it's no surprise to me where you feel resentful or you feel like, there's so much more that I want out of life, but I can't, there's a block. Well, the block might be you. Because a lot of things that we probably do want, it's 2026. There's so many resources and so many ways that we can learn new skills, that we can get connected with people that have the ability to make our goals and dreams happen. There's so many ways to learn. There's so many ways to explore. There's so much available to us now. 50 years ago, probably not the case, but now the world truly is your oyster, but you just have to be brave enough to dream about what it is you actually want and to say it and then to go for it unapologetically. And dare I say, it should in some capacity solely benefit you. Not everything that you want has to benefit other people. Especially if you're already being such a supportive, providing, giving, helpful person, just naturally, then you deserve that same type of attention and care back to yourself. And it doesn't make you selfish. It actually makes you even more sustained and even more able to show up for others because you're filling your cup too. And if you're constantly filling up everyone else's cup, but you're not filling your own, that's not what life is supposed to be. We were not meant to live that life. And I truly believe that there's a balance that can happen. But we don't need more martyrs. We don't need more humble people who are neglecting their desires and neglecting their wants for the sake of seeming to be humble and good. You can have wants and desires and still be good. They don't cancel each other out. So I think the reframe here is to shift the belief to say, I am one of those people my life is supposed to benefit. If you do all these things for everyone else, you should be a part of that list as well. I've said this to clients before where I'll say, listen, I want to make sure that you are also on your to-do list. I want to make sure that when I look at your calendar, that when you're doing things for everyone else, that you're also part of that list. So one thing that I do is I color code everything on my calendar. And anything that is focused solely on me and that benefits solely me at like the core, it's purple because purple is my favorite color. So I can actually see each week how much I'm actually supporting myself. And it's not just like tending to my needs. These are things that I genuinely love doing that are solely for me, like taking a dance class. I love taking dance classes, so I'll put that on there. Or maybe it is taking myself on a solo date or whatever it is. But there are certain things that are on my calendar that are solely for me and that benefit no one else. And that's important. It's important to me, and it's important for me to see that, to remind myself that I am one of the people my life is supposed to benefit. It's understanding that you're allowed to support yourself in those ways, but you're also allowed to want certain things. You're allowed to want to make more money. If you want to make more money for the simple fact that you want to elevate your home or elevate or upgrade something in your life, like you are allowed to want that. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you greedy. It doesn't make you selfish. I've had people say, oh, if I won the lottery, I would just give it all to charity. While I love that, and I do think that's really important to support others, the people who tell me that sometimes, I look at their life and I'm like, you literally were just talking to me about all of these things that you're struggling with. And if you did win the lottery, I would hope that you would use some of that money to get yourself better health insurance and get yourself a car that's actually reliable for you to get to and from work without it always breaking down. I wish that you would invest some of that money into your business because you are really struggling with certain things, or that you would hire a coach, or that you would get a therapist, or whatever it is, right? I'm not saying spend it all on clothes and whatever it is, but maybe you would use some of that money to take yourself on a trip because you haven't been on vacation in 5 years. We have to understand that it's okay to spend money on ourselves. It's okay to spend some time that's only focused on ourselves. It's okay to have hobbies that don't generate anything else but just joy. And I don't know why I keep bringing up money here, but that's just what's really relevant for me. But there's so many other things, right? You can want support. You can want beauty. You can want pleasure. You can want recognition. You could want rest. You could want a new opportunity. You could want to go viral on social media. You could want whatever it is that you want. And caring about people does not mean that you have to eliminate yourself from the equation. Both can be true. And when I sat with myself and really started to think about my own business and the life that I wanted and what that next level would look like for me, I had to start to change my offerings of my business. I had to change my pricing. I had to start saying no to certain opportunities that came across my desk, because I also had to be very clear on the boundaries that I was going to set to support the life that I wanted. And I had to stop settling for crumbs. And I had to be okay with certain things not being how they used to be. Because I think sometimes we're afraid if we want more, then who gets left behind? I believe that in my life, when I've made decisions that supported the version of me that wanted more for myself, was it uncomfortable? Yes. And it was uncomfortable for me and for the people in my lives that may not be in that same mindset space anymore. And not everyone can go with you where you're trying to go. Because some people, they are on their own. Actually, no, everyone's on their own journey. And sometimes life will just bring you in different directions, and that's also okay. But if you're staying in relationships and staying in friendships that are stunting your growth, that's problematic. If you're staying around people who make fun of you for having big dreams and big goals, that's problematic. And chances are, because they're afraid to go after what they want to keep you from going after what you want because they're afraid that you're going to leave them. Or it's going to require them to have to rise to the occasion and grow themselves. And maybe they're not ready for that, or they don't want to. And that's hard, and I get that. But your life is your life. And every time that I found myself in that moment of like, should I stay small? Should I not go for what I want? Or should I do it? Every time that I've gone for something, said yes to something, because I do want more for myself. Because I focused on me in that moment, it's always, in hindsight, benefited so many other people. When I started to really think about it in that way, it just was a natural progression of that. Because when I started to charge more and was able to invest in my business, able to hire people to support my business, I was actually able to do more coaching. I was actually able to have more free time and space to be able to support those people that have had me to coach them or to facilitate workshops with them. I also now had more free time to be able to have my weekends off and spend time with my loved ones. I was more rested. And so now I'm not always anxious all the time. I was able to actually afford better health insurance and therapy and all of these things that were solely focused on me but benefited everyone else around me. And that's why it's so important. And I think if we would spend more time just being comfortable in that space, comfortable of wanting more, and knowing that it's not going to make you greedy or selfish or a bad person. Because here's what I do know. If you are listening to anything that I'm talking about, if we've connected on social media, I pretty much kind of know what type of person you are. And I would bet like $100 that you're a good person, that you care about people and you are compassionate and you care about how you make other people feel and you think about that and it's an important value to you. So I'm going to encourage you to start thinking about what do you want and then start to move through that. So if you are up for that challenge, then here's a practice that I think will be really helpful on this journey. Because what I do know also is that I can tell you that you deserve to want more and that you're entitled to having more and that it doesn't have to benefit everyone else and it can solely benefit you, that your inner critic is going to start to chime in and start to say things and try to convince you that it's wrong to do that. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to think about one area in your life that has been neglected or an area that's mostly been shaped around what other people need from you. So it could be work, it could be health, it could be relationships, it could be your home, it could be your job, it could be an entrepreneurial goal that you have, it could be your creativity, whatever it is, travel, whatever it is, right? What area of your life has been neglected? And if you're struggling with that, there is something that I do love to do, and it's called the Wheel of Life activity, where you basically will just kind of rate each area of your life, and then you connect all of the segments, and you can kind of see, does it make a round wheel, or is it kind of like a fragmented wheel? And then you can actually see which one has the lowest number, and that can be the area that you might want to focus on. So I will link that PDF for you if you want to do that activity as well. I'll link it in the show notes. But the idea here is to get really clear on what's one area. So when I had that meeting with my accountant, honestly, my one area was my business. I was neglecting it. So that's the first thing. You want to choose one area. And it's important to focus on one area because I think sometimes we'll try to do everything all at once and then it just becomes too much. Again, it's an interesting conversation that you're going to have with yourself because we're talking about your wants and desires. We've graduated from needs to wants and desires. And so there's a different level of inner critics and inner bullies and self-sabotaging thoughts that come to play when we start talking about our wants and needs. So get very clear on what your area is. The next thing is you're going to answer the question, what do I want in this area of my life that would solely benefit me? Now, this is important because you're probably going to go into how it would benefit everyone else around you. That's not what this exercise is about. You don't have to share it with anyone, but this is an exercise to get your brain to loosen up the grip that it has on you believing that the only way that you can achieve something, have something, or aspire to something is if it benefits other people. I want you to write down every single thing. Actually, set a timer for 5 minutes and just write in bullets. What do you want in that area that would only benefit you, right? So like for me, when I was going through this exercise, I was thinking about my business. What do I want? Well, I want better equipment. I want to hire a team. I want better software. A lot of it was like hiring people to do things to alleviate the stress in my business. That's a lot of what I did. But I just got really clear, like, I wanted to have slow mornings. I didn't want to check email before 10 a.m. I didn't want to work on weekends. And I just went very, very like bit by bit of like, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want in this area of my life. And it almost shaped itself out into this kind of vision for that area. And that's really what you're doing. You're getting a very clear vision of what you want in that area of your life. And so if you want some examples, here are some examples that I've either done for myself or people who I've done this exercise with have come up with. So here's some of the examples. I want to make $250,000 over the next 12 months. I want to work 4 days a week. I want my partner to take more responsibility for our home without me having to ask. I want to hire someone to clean my house every week. I want to stop financially supporting adults who can support themselves. I want to leave this job even if other people think I should be grateful for having it. I want to raise my rates and stop negotiating them down. I want to take 2 international vacations every single year. I want to buy a home that is beautiful, comfortable, and in the neighborhood I actually want. I want to be promoted to an executive role. I want to build enough wealth that money is no longer behind every decision I make. I want a relationship where I feel chosen, cared for, and considered. I want to stop accepting opportunities that pay poorly simply because the work is meaningful. I want to enjoy the life that I've worked so hard to build. Those are just some examples, and whatever you come up with is going to be perfectly fine. You don't have to share it with anyone, but the activity really should be around getting very clear on what it is that you want. What do you want? Not what you don't want. Keep this in like the positive presupposition. What is it that you want? And just generate the list that focuses on that area. Make the list as long as possible. And the final piece is, what is one decision that I can make within the next 24 hours, the next week, that would allow this desire to come to fruition? Now, what I'm not saying is that you're going to solve it in that moment. I'm not saying that you'll do one action that's going to make it happen instantaneously. But what I'm saying is, what's one thing that you can do? A small thing, not even a big thing. What's a small thing that you can do that will at least create the momentum, that will at least let that dopamine hit start to happen? Because we need to be able to ensure that you can actually give yourself what you want. Just like when you're asking yourself, what do I need right now? And you realize you haven't had water, which I haven't. So I just took a sip of water. But that's self-trust. I built that self-trust to know that when I ask myself what I need and I check in with myself, I can give myself what I need, the basic foundations of a human need. But when I'm asking myself, what do I want? You have to think about the same thing. What's a small action that you can do that's going to move you closer to that desire of it being achieved? So again, think small. So here are some examples that, again, I've sourced from people I've worked with or sourced from myself that might help to prime the pump for you. Sending the proposal with the rate you actually want to charge, applying for the promotion, the role, the grant, or the opportunity, asking your partner or family member to take full ownership of a responsibility, getting a quote from a housekeeper, opening a savings account or an investment account to support a personal goal of yours, setting a boundary around how much money, time, or labor you'll be continuing to give, booking the consultation, booking the appointment, or booking the first step that you've been postponing, requesting the raise or the resources that you need, blocking the dates for a vacation before filling the calendar with other obligations, telling someone clearly what you want instead of hinting or waiting for them to notice, researching the experience you actually desire, or taking one responsibility off your plate. That's a very exhaustive list, and there's so many more that you could come up with on your own. But again, you're not trying to solve anything overnight, but it's just that small action and building that self-trust that you can give yourself what you want. And that's what's so important about this exercise. You focus on one area, you get clear on the desires, and then you get clear on the one move that you need to make to get things to move a little bit closer. It's simple, but it might be uncomfortable because you have to work through all the inner chatter that might convince you otherwise. But I promise you, everything that you write down on that paper is valid, it's important, you are entitled to it, and you deserve it. So please don't forget that when you're doing this. And if you feel inclined, you can connect with me on social media, you can add it to the comments here, and just let me know how that exercise worked for you, or what did you discover for yourself in that? So now's the time. We're coming to an end, and we always pull a card from the Nourished Life coaching deck. And hopefully this has given you a lot to think about, and it's given you a lot to consider. And let's see what the card deck wants to offer. What task drains your energy the most, and how could you change it? Now, I love this question. The card deck never lies, because as you're doing this, there's probably something right now in your life that is draining your energy that needs to go. It needs to go, because you know what? You don't want it. You don't want to do it anymore. You don't want to be responsible for it anymore. You don't want it to be a part of your daily life anymore. You don't want it to be something that you have to think about all the time, because it probably doesn't serve you anymore. And it might not just be a task. It could be a person. It could be a relationship. It could be a situation. It could be many things. So expand this a little bit. This question is really highlighting on the fact that maybe there's something that you don't want anymore in your life, because it is draining your energy. And that's a huge indicator. When something is draining my energy, I need to really sit with that and think, like, why is it still here? Why am I still committing to doing this thing? Now, there's some things that you might have to commit to for a little bit longer, but at least you now know. And maybe how do you change it? It may not be how you eliminate it or get rid of it, but how can you change it so that way it feels more aligned? How can you make that shift? I know for me personally, I delegated that task to someone else. And then some of the tasks only I could really do, which was fine, but I had to find a way to change it so it didn't leave me drained. And that's where I started to use tools like AI, or I started to reframe how I used or how I did the task. I'm a big fan of gamifying things. So if something is not that fun, I will try to find a way to gamify it so I can commit to it. I'd even gotten better at, rewarding myself after doing a task that only I can do, that I have to do, but then I'll reward myself after. So that way, at least it's something that helped me get through it. But that's a part of it. You have to start creating the conditions for your life to where your life does feel good, because we are deserving of that too. So that's the question from the deck. It never lies. I always love how on point it is. Think about everything we've talked about today. I would love to hear from you. And this week, you're going to buy yourself flowers by admitting that you actually want things, and that you want more and you desire more. And just admitting that is a great first step. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for just being on this journey with me and allowing me to share my revelations and my shifts as I've been in my own reclamation season. And hopefully it's encouraging you to follow along and have a reclamation season of your own. So we'll be back for a couple more episodes in this season. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.